and something that feels like coming home to the empath themselves. Everyone discusses the awakening itself, the crisis, the dark night of the soul, the moment everything falls apart. But what Carl Jung found most fascinating was not the breakdown. It was what walked out the other side. The person who emerges after genuine spiritual awakening bears so little resemblance to who they were before, that even the people closest to them cannot recognize what they are looking at. What disturbed Jung most was that the transformation was not what anyone expected. The empath did not become more empathic. They became something else entirely. Something that looks cold to people who knew the old version. Something that looks powerful to people encountering the new version for the first time, leaving the empath's own inner world completely uncharted territory. Their entire psychological orientation pointed outward. They monitored everyone else's emotional state while ignoring their own, building identity around being needed, being helpful, being the one who understood. Their sense of self was not generated internally. It was assembled from reflections in other people's responses. If you needed them, they existed. If you validated them, they had worth. Jung recognized this not as sensitivity, but as a sophisticated survival architecture built in childhood. The empath learned early that safety depended on managing other people's emotional states. Genuine awakening for empaths begins when the outward pointing system catastrophically fails. Usually this happens through a relationship or situation so devastating that the empath's usual strategies of absorbing, fixing, and accommodating simply cannot work anymore. The narcissistic partner who cannot be healed through love. The family system that punishes every attempt at connection. The friendship where giving everything yields nothing. Something breaks the empath's fundamental belief that if they just love hard enough, sacrifice completely enough, everything will be okay. When that belief breaks, the empath's entire operating system crashes. This is where Jung observed the transformation beginning, not in the crash itself, but in what the empath is forced to do during the crash. Turn their extraordinary perceptual abilities inward for the very first time. The empath who spent decades reading everyone else's emotional landscape suddenly has to read their own. What they find there is devastating. Decades of unfelt grief, rage they did not know they were carrying, needs they never acknowledged, an entire inner world neglected while they tended to everyone else's. Jung described this as the shadow confrontation, and for empaths it is particularly brutal. Their shadow is not just personal darkness, it is every emotion absorbed from others that was never processed, every boundary they should have set but did not, every moment they betrayed themselves to keep someone else comfortable. This is the part of awakening that looks like falling apart. The empath may withdraw from relationships, stop answering calls, seem selfish or cold. But what is actually happening is the most important psychological work of their entire life. The empath who emerges from genuine awakening possesses their original abilities but operating in a completely different configuration. Everything once pointed outward now has an inward anchor. The first thing Jung observed was the development of what he called selective permeability. Before awakening, the empath was an open system. Everything came in, nothing was filtered. After awakening, the empath develops the ability to choose what they let in and what they keep out. They still perceive emotions, energies, and undercurrents, but they no longer automatically absorb them. It is the difference between standing in a rainstorm with no umbrella and standing in a rainstorm with the ability to decide which drops you let touch you. Awakened empaths could sit with someone in genuine pain and offer profound presence without taking that pain home with them, and help offered from wholeness actually helps rather than creating codependence. Before awakening, empaths helped compulsively. They could not encounter pain without trying to fix it. Jung identified this as a defense mechanism. Compulsive helping allowed the empath to avoid their own pain by constantly attending to everyone else's. As long as someone needed them, they did not have to face the terrifying emptiness of their own unmet needs. After awakening, the compulsion dissolves. The empath can witness someone's pain without feeling responsible for resolving it. What changes is the motivation. What eventually stabilizes is a person who can be both soft and fierce depending on what the moment requires, compassionate and boundaried, gentle and absolutely immovable when something threatens their integrity. The awakened empath develops what he called integrated authority. Before awakening, empaths were passive, accommodating, conflict avoidant. They swallowed their truth to keep the peace, abandoned their position the moment someone pushed back, apologized for having needs. This was not gentleness. It was the absence of self. After awakening, the empath discovers something they never had access to before: their own anger. Not reactive rage, but clean, clear, boundaried anger that says no and means it. Jung observed that this was the shadow element empaths had most thoroughly repressed. Awakening digs that anger up, giving awakened empaths their characteristic steadiness amid intense experience. After awakening, solitude becomes the empath's sanctuary, genuine nourishment from their own company. Jung found that awakened empaths developed a rich interior life that made time alone not just tolerable, but often preferable. The fifth transformation is what Jung found most psychologically significant. He called it the development of the inner witness. Before awakening, empaths were fully merged with their experiences. After awakening, a space develops. Jung described it as the emergence of a consciousness that can observe experience without being identical to it. The awakened empath can feel sadness and simultaneously witness themselves feeling sadness. The combination of these transformations produces a person Jung found remarkable in clinical observation. The awakened empath retains their extraordinary perceptual abilities but wields them with discernment. They can read a room but choose what to engage with. They can sense someone's wound but resist the compulsion to heal it. Jung noticed something else about these individuals that surprised him. They became natural catalysts for transformation in others, not through effort or trying to heal anyone, but through the sheer force of their integrated presence. When someone who has done genuine shadow work sits with you, something shifts. Their refusal to perform, to accommodate falseness, to participate in unconscious dynamics creates a field where other people's masks become uncomfortable. Not because the awakened empath confronts them, but because authenticity makes inauthenticity harder to maintain. Two people choosing to share their completeness, rather than filling each other's emptiness, the awakened empath loses people. Relationships built on the old dynamic, where the empath gave endlessly, and the other person received endlessly, cannot survive the shift. Some will leave. Some will try to guilt the empath back into the old pattern. Some will declare the empath has become selfish and lost their heart. This loss is real, and it hurts. Jung did not minimize it. You can know something was unhealthy and still grieve its ending. If you are in the middle of this transformation right now, if everything is falling apart, and the person you used to be is dissolving, Jung would want you to know that what is happening is not destruction. It is construction. You are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself for the first time. The person who emerges will be quieter than you imagined, more boundaried than you thought possible, more comfortable with solitude than you ever believed. They will feel less, not because they have numbed, but because they have stopped carrying what was never theirs. What looks like hardness is actually the first real softness they have ever possessed, because genuine tenderness requires a self strong enough to offer it freely. This is what empaths become after spiritual awakening, themselves, fully, unapologetically, for the very first time.